Hello, good day everyone. So this is our topic for today. Was it a misencounter or a massacre? So this topic is often associated with historical events where the intention and outcome are debated, particularly in cases like the shooting of Mama Sapano or other controversial historical events involving violence between different groups, which may have been framed as either a misencounter or massacre. But before anything else, let me first read the learning objectives. So at the end of the lesson, students will be able to explain the key differences between a misencounter and a massacre using historical examples such as the Mama Sapano. Next, engage in critical thinking by analyzing primary sources, eyewitnesses' accounts, and official reports to form their own conclusions about historical events, and develop empathy and awareness of the emotional and social implications of violent events and understand the impacts on the affected communities and peace processes. Okay, so we have here the misencounter and the massacre. So when we say misencounter, an unintentional clash or conflict, often arising from misunderstanding or lack of information. So a misencounter refers to an unplanned or accidental clash between two parties, often arising from misunderstandings, poor communication, or lack of awareness. In such cases, neither such intends to escalate the conflict, and it may result in minimal casualties or unintended consequences. Next is the massacre. So it is a violent event involving the mass of killing individuals, often framed as an unjust or brutal attacks. So, a massacre refers to the deliberate, large-scale killing of a group of people, often characterized by its brutality and disproportionate violence. So, it is typically seen as a target attack, and its intent to overpower a group of people without regard for their innocence or participation in a conflict. So, understanding this distinction is crucial for assessing responsibility, shaping historical narratives, and determining accountability. Misunderstanding the nature of an event could lead to false narratives and overlooked injustices, while framing a misencounter as a massacre may incite unnecessary conflict or politicize the event. Okay, so the Mama Sapano incident that was happened on January 25, 2015. So the Mama Sapano incident happened at Mama Sapano, Maguindanao, Philippines. So it is a tactical operation. It was a tactical operation intended to capture two high-profile terrorists. So Zulkifli bin Hir Marwan and Abdul Basil Usman, who were believed to be hiding in the region. So the SAF, or the Special Action Force, launched the operation without fully coordinating with the MILF, or the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, which had a ceasefire agreement with the Philippine government, and as a result, miscommunication led to a deadly firefight between the SAF and the MILF forces. So the clash resulted in the death of 44 SAF officers and dozens of MILF and BIFF fighters, or the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters. So this led to nation outrage over the loss of SAF lives and calls for justice, but also accusations that the operation was poorly planned and mishandled. So the incidents raised crucial question. So was it an unintentional clash or misencounter due to lack of coordination, or was it a targeted massacre by the MILF and BIFF, who engaged in excessive force against government troops? So was it a misencounter? So the arguments for misencounter: the clash resulted from lack of communication and misunderstanding between government forces and MILF fighters. There was no intention to escalate the situation into mass violence. And last is MILF claims that they mistook the SAF for enemy forces. So the clash was the result of a breakdown in communication. The SAF did not coordinate properly with the MILF, who were unaware of the operation. So when the MILF encountered SAF forces in the area, they may have mistaken them for enemy combatants. So both sides did not intend to escalate the situation. The SAF troops were conducting a law enforcement operation, not a military assault. So the MILF, on the other hand, was in the area due to their presence as part of ongoing peace negotiations. So we have here the contributing factors. So poor intelligence and lack of coordination between groups. So intelligence reports were incomplete and crucial details about the presence of MILF fighters were not properly shared with SAF or SAF. So both sides may have misunderstood the other's intention. So both the Philippine government and MILF had differing interpretations of the operation, and crucial communication lines between the parties were either unclear or not established. So many argued that the conflict between the SAF and the MILF was simply the result of miscommunication and a lack of clear intelligence, rather than a planned attack or massacre. So this view emphasizes that the incident was a tragic outcome of a poorly managed operation, not a targeted killing of innocent men. Okay, so that's all for my part in this topic. So, by the way, I am Angel May Tolada. So, I'll now give the virtual floor to the next reporter.
So to continue the report with the topic of SAF 44, was it a misencounter or a massacre? So the events of January 25, 2015 in Mamasapano, Maguindanao, involving the deaths of 44 members of the Philippine National Police Special Action Force or SAF, are often referred to as the Mamasapano Massacre. While the term massacre is frequently used, the incident's complexity and the ongoing debate surrounding it warrant the noun's understanding. The SAF operation, codename Oplan Wolverine, aimed to capture Malaysian terrorist Zulkifli bin Hir, or known as Marwan. Marwan was considered a high-value target with 6 million US dollar bounty on his head. The operation was conducted without proper coordination with the military or the Moro Islamic Liberation Front or MILF, which was observing a ceasefire at that time. This lack of coordination led to the SAF becoming isolated and vulnerable to attacks from the MILF and the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters or BIFF. The SAF successfully killed Marwan, but during their withdrawal, they were ambushed by MILF and BIFF forces, leading to a fierce gun battle that resulted in the deaths of 44 SAF troopers. The incident sparked widespread outrage and controversy, with accusations of negligence and lack of accountability leveled against the government. The debate and the massacre level. The use of the term massacre is contested. Some argue that the term accurately reflects the brutality and the high number of SAF casualties. Others contend that it is an overly simplistic label that fails to capture the complexities of the situation. The incident involved complexity interplay factors including lack of coordination. The SAF failure to coordinate with the military and the MILF was a significant contributing factor to the tragedy. Miscommunication. The government's initial claims of a misencounter were met with skepticism and fueled accusations of cover-up. MILF involvement. The extent of the MALF involvement in the attack remains a subject of debate, with some claiming that they were directly responsible for the death of the troopers. The legacy in the search for justice. The Mamasapano incident had a profound impact on Philippine politics and security. It strained the peace process between the government and the MALF, leading to the shelving of the Bangsamoro Basic Law, or BBL. The incident also highlighted the need for better coordination and communication among security forces in the Philippines. The families of the slain SAF troopers continued to seek justice and accountability for the deaths of their loved ones. The incident remains sensitive and complex in Philippine history, with ongoing investigations and debates about the events and their implications. In conclusion, while the term massacre is used to describe the Mamasapano incident, it is important to acknowledge the complexity of the situation and the ongoing debates surrounding it. The incident was a tragedy that resulted from a combination of factors, including poor coordination, miscommunication, and the involvement of multiple armed groups. The search for justice and accountability continues, and the Mamasapano incident remains a significant event in Philippine history, serving as a reminder of the challenges facing the country in its pursuit of peace and security. Arguments for massacre. The Philippine government's official investigation suggested that the attack was premeditated and disproportionate, resulting in targeted killings. Some reports indicated the use of excessive force by MALF and BIFF. Despite knowing the SAF troops were on a mission, the scale and brutality of the attack were significant. Emotional impact. The tragedy sparked a national outrage and led to calls for justice for the fallen SAF officers. Political and social implications. Impact on peace talks. The incident had a negative impact on ongoing peace negotiations between the Philippine government and the MALF. Public trust in the peace process was eroded. Mamasapano clash severely damaged the fragile peace process between the government and the MILF, which aimed to create a more autonomous Bangsamoro region in Mindanao. The incident fueled distrust and anger towards the government among some sectors of the Moro population, leading to calls for a review of the peace agreement. So that is the political impact, and while social implications. The incident exacerbated tensions and mistrust between the Moro community and the government. Many in the Moro community felt that the government had betrayed their trust by conducting a covert operation in their territory without proper coordination. The incident also fueled fears of further violence and stability. Public reaction, outrage over the killing of the SAF officers, mixed opinions on whether the MALF's actions were justified or amounted to a massacre. So, historical context of misencounters versus massacres. So, misencounter proponents of this view argue that the Mamasapano clash was a tragic accident resulting from lack of coordination and communication between the SAF and the MILF. They point to the fact that the operation was conducted without proper authorization from the MILF, which controlled the territory where Marwan was located. They also highlight the faulty intelligence that led to the SAF being outnumbered and outgunned by the MILF and BIFF. So massacre, those who viewed the event as massacre argued that the SAF commandos were deliberately targeted and killed by the MILF and BIFF. They point to the allegations of human rights violations, including extrajudicial killings and the use of excessive force committed by the SAF during the operation. They also criticized the government's failure to provide adequate support and reinforcement to the SAF commandos, which contributed to their deaths. Compare similar events in history. where incidents were initially considered misencounters but later viewed as massacres. For example, My Lai Massacre and Sand Creek Massacre. Role of propaganda, media coverage, and government narratives in shaping public perception. So case studies highlight other incidents like the Battle of Mabitak during the Philippine-American War or Zinzhou Massacre Chinese Civil War. So legal and ethical considerations. So for the legal considerations, first is chain of command and authority. So second is use of force, accountability and justice, peace process and international law. So those are the legal considerations, and while the ethical considerations, these are the following: respect for human life, transparency and accountability, trust and reconciliation, duty to protect. So that would be all my part of the report.
Misencounter or massacre. Challenges in defining events. How bias, the political, social, or cultural influence the framing of historical events. The role of media and public opinion in shaping the narrative. The phrase misencounter or massacre. Challenges in defining events highlight the complexities involved in understanding and interpreting historical events. This is particularly true when dealing with incidents of violence, where differing perspectives and biases can lead to vastly different interpretation of the same events. The influence of biases. Political, social, and cultural biases can significantly shape the framing of historical events. These events can stem from, first, political agendas. Governments or political groups might deliberately manipulate narratives to serve their interests, portraying events in a way that benefits their ideology or policies. Second, social heresies. Events can be framed differently depending on the social standing of those involved. For example, a clash between a wealthy elite and a marginalized group might be portrayed as a misencounter. And if the elite group is in power, while the same event could be seen as a massacre, if the marginalized group is viewed as the victim. Third, cultural perspective. Different cultures have varying understanding of violence, justice, and responsibilities. What might be considered a justifiable act in one culture could be seen as a brutal atrocity in another. The role of media and public opinion. The media plays a crucial role in shaping public opinion and influencing how historical events are remembered. First, framing bias. Media outlets often present information in a way that is favor a particular perspectives, highlighting certain aspects of the story while downplaying others. This framing bias can influence how audiences interpret and understand events. Second, public opinion. The media's portraying of events can significantly impact public opinion, which in turn can influence how government and institutions respond to those events. I have here a key questions. First, what defines a massacre and how do we differentiate it from a misencounter? So the difference between a massacre and a misencounter is tricky. A massacre is when a lot of people are killed on purpose without a good reason, while a misencounter is more like an accident or fight that wasn't planned. Can historical events with complex cause be classified definitively? But it's hard to say for sure if a big event was a massacre or a misencounter because people might see it differently depending on their beliefs and what they know. The role of media in shaping the narrative. Media influence on public perceptions. The way the media presents an event can significantly shape public opinion, influencing whether it's seen as a tragic misunderstanding or a deliberate massacre. In the case of Mama Sapporo, news outlet quickly reported the number of casualties and framed the events in dramatic terms, leading to emotional responses. The way the media portrays an event can have a huge impact on how people understand it. For example, if the media focuses on the number of people and use dramatic language, it can make people think that the event was a brutal massacre. But if the people present it as tragic misunderstanding, it can make people feel sympathy for everyone's involved. The Mama Sapano incident is a good example. News report quickly highlighted the number of casualties, making people feel shocked and upset. This influenced how they saw the events. Media responsibilities. Journalists play a crucial role in presents balanced factual accounts without sensationalizing or distorting the truth. The portraying of both the victims and the persecutors can influence public discourse and policy decisions. Social media impact. In today's digital age, social media platforms become a battleground for competing narratives, hashtags, viral videos, and citizens' reports shaped how the world the events. So this means that how important it is for the journalist nearly news fair and accurately. They need to avoid seems more dramatics than they are, present both the victims and the people who did in a balanced way. Social media makes it even more complicated. People share information quickly on platforms like Facebook and Twitter, but it's not always true. This can make it hard to know what's really happening. It is also important to be careful about what you read online and to check if the information is coming from reliable sources. So before I will end these discussions, I have here quotes. History is written by the victors, but it is the truth that eventually emerges. This quote suggests that history is often told from the perspective of those who won, which can lead to a biased or incomplete account. However, the truth is even hidden or suppressed will eventually come out. Thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you learn more about our topics. Thank you and God bless.